So my first dealings into smart home was Wi-Fi. I know I'm holding up a SmartThings hub, but it was strictly Wi-Fi, and I used the Smart Life app. As you can see here, this I had a ton of devices that were connected on Wi-Fi before, and it was just a lot of stuff. I mean, I would say there was probably eventually about 30 items from light bulbs, and I don't have the original light bulbs that I used to have, but this was one of them. It was to our chandelier. It's a Lo- Lauren, Lorab, oh Lohas, a Lohas smart bulb, and this I had a six spigot chandelier, and I want each of the lights to be independent. This thing did pretty well. It, I would say, it didn't last that long though. Kind of disappointed. It was very bright though. One thing I did like was the colors were extremely bright, and the whites were also brighter. So this bulb did pretty well, but this bulb only had the daylight white. It didn't have the soft white. And I do believe it was the fact that it didn't have its own white cell in it. I believe it was a combination of RGB, which created the white light, and but it was still rather bright. I was very impressed. Also, I bought a lot of these guys. The Gosung, I'm not sure how you put Gosund switches. These are Wi-Fi switches. And actually, these switches, I know I almost dropped it. These switches did really well. I was very impressed. It never disconnected. I had them all over the house. They're Wi-Fi, but I was impressed. And then I bought this. Now this is a Sylvania. Also, I think it was rebranded to Osram, and I couldn't connect this. Now, so this is the one of the things that uh, I had to learn. It was like okay, all these different technology. You had C-Wave, Zigbee, LoRa, and of course Wi-Fi, and you also had Bluetooth mesh. And having to learn all that was a challenge. How I got my first smart home device was through my electric company. They had a special offer when we moved into our first place here in Harker Heights, Texas. And where you get their electricity, they'll give you a free um, uh, Alexa device. And I was like, cool. And it was the Echo Dot, the original one, the one with, it's kind of like a flat disc, looks like a hockey puck. And so I was impressed. I mean, it basically we used it as a Q&A. We played Echo, stop. I need to hit do not disturb on that thing. Um, but basically, it we at first used it to play a few games on it, and it was fun. It was cool. Eventually, I decided, you know what, I want to go ahead and add a few more things. Just start experimenting with more. Um, One, I was using a Wi-Fi router that was connected to our network from the internet provider. And so that router, of course, it was good. I have to say, it took 3 times spectrum coming out to look at our network and trying to figure out why our internet was slow. Now, the internet slowness wasn't because of the router. It was the wiring had to get replaced. So they literally went around the house, took out the old wires, put in brand new cables throughout, and our internet improved. They also they had some issues with the I don't know what it's called, but the main network at the end of the block for the entire neighborhood. And so they had a big work order because a lot of people on that block complain of slow internet. So, you know, gratefully after a couple of months of waiting, and I work from home, so I was really nervous about it because I didn't want to lose my job because my internet wasn't up to par. I'm paying for 500 megabits down, 20 megabits up. We don't have fiber here where we live, and I was like, okay, we got to get this internet fixed. They fixed it, and now we're pulling between 450 and 600 megabits per second down and 20 to 25 up, which is really, really great, and hasn't really been an issue since. Um, so once Spectrum came out the last time, they gave me the best router that they had, and it was fantastic. This router has not had any issues. I probably only had to reboot it maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Sometimes I do it just because it's like, I haven't rebooted that thing since January. It's now September. Let me just do a reboot on it. Sometimes it's a good idea to unplug it, leave it unplugged for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, plug it back in, and let it go. A lot of times that this helps, the system to reconnect and reestablish a few things. Also, to identify if there's any issues of it reconnecting. I eventually we moved to a mobile home, and we actually love it. It's a single wide, but it's a mobile home nonetheless. Eventually, I decided to upgrade our Wi-Fi router, and our Wi-Fi router is a TP-Link. I didn't get the most expensive one out there. I didn't get the Wi-Fi 6. I think I probably got the most expensive Wi-Fi 5 router, but it works great. And our Wi-Fi has improved tremendously. We were having, I mean, this is, I'm not exactly sure. I believe it's 900 square feet. And there's an office right here, which is my wife's office. This is my office, which is a second and third bedroom. Then we have our living room right here, and there's a kitchen over here somewhere. And then further down, we got the bathrooms. All right, babe, I'm recording. All right, let's do a mark. That's Mark. Okay. All right, so um, and we have the two bathrooms further down, and then we have our bedroom. So on the old router, we had some Wi-Fi issues. Some of the devices in that room were not connecting, and it was getting frustrating because the lights weren't turning on when they're supposed to. So I was like, okay, we got to get better Wi-Fi. Then I discovered Zigbee. Oh, to Zigbee. Okay. So I got this SmartThings. Well, the first thing I got really was the Singlet hub. I was trying to find it. I have it somewhere in this house, but I was not able to find the original hub. But I kept it somewhere. It's somewhere in this house. But the second thing I got, which I really liked better, was the Zigbee hub, or I'm sorry, the SmartThings hub, which has built-in C-Wave, it has built-in Zigbee, and of course is now Matter capable. I got the original SmartThings. Luckily, I didn't have to get the AOTech version, which is definitely a lot more expensive. Uh, I was impressed with this. This was a very good option. My only complaint, uh, I well, okay. Remember I said that one part of my house, the office is on one side and the bedroom is on the other side. Uh, when I originally moved into this mobile home, I told them that, oh, one of the things we have to do to improve the signal from the telephone pole was to disconnect all of the incoming internet into the home, except for the office. Because I work from home, I needed to make sure, and I had to be directly connected to the internet. I couldn't do Wi-Fi. Um, I needed the router to be in the same room. Of course, at the time, I'm not a handyman or like that, and I do not know the proper ways of drilling holes through walls, and so it's one of those things that I had to set up and to make it work. That was kind of a hard thing to do. So I was like, let's just get the internet, disconnect all the plugs in the home except for the office, and let's get the internet coming through that wall, and so I can connect an Ethernet port directly to my work computer. Um, and they did, and it works great. It works great. Um, However, this cannot be there because this needs to be a little bit more centralized. And so this was working off of Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi will talk to it, and then it will talk to all the Zigbee and C-Wave devices. It actually worked pretty good. It was maybe a millisecond of a response. You tap on, and then maybe one, two, boom. It was like click, one, two, boom. So it wasn't exactly responsive, unlike my home assistant that I have now. So we have that. Also, what I bought were the Walmart specials. Oh, let's just go back to the early days. The Mercury switches. And oh, that don't sound right. Mercury switches. The old Mercury switch from war times. But yeah, no, this is a Mercury. It's a Wi-Fi switch. I also had a couple of Mercury light bulbs that I was very disappointed in. So I discovered Singled. Singled. Yes, I absolutely loved their bulbs. Now this is not a Singled bulb, but I am using it to kind of have something to hold on to and, you know, visual aid. So I had a singlet bulb and it worked great. The colors were great. It was bright. It did everything that I wanted it to do. Now, keep in mind, a lot of my automations were done in Alexa. Also, I had a lot of automations done in here, but I ran into a problem. When I got to a certain amount of routines that were built into this thing, it started bugging out. And so I contacted SmartThings about this. I said, hey, I don't know exactly what the amount was, but it was like 30 automations. By this time, I had like 65 devices connected to this thing. And I told them, I said, SmartThings, I have 65 devices. You know, I am now limited to only 30 routines. So I even contemplated and I asked them, so do I have to get a second router or a second SmartThings hub to help with that? And they were like, no, you should be able to do more with this. Then I asked them, well, why is this happening? Then an update came like a few months later, and I was able to do up to 100 different automations. Well, I'm exaggerating here, but it was like about 50. And I was able to add a few more devices. But then it started getting sluggish. So instead of not working anymore, it started to get sluggish. I would press on a light, and the lights that were further out took forever to turn on. And my thinking, because okay, I was new. Okay, so keep that in mind. Some of you guys already know this, but I was new. I had singlet, Zigbee bulbs. They were end devices. So that device had to talk all the way from that room in the bedroom all the way over here, which is like 50,000 kilometers. Okay. Uh, Not literally. So And this was it was getting really frustrating, and it was pissing me off. Keep in mind, I know you look at some YouTubers out there, smart home YouTubers, nothing wrong with what they're doing, but a lot of them say if you have kitchen lights and you got a lot of them, let's say you have like six, bulbs connected, and why not just put that on a dimmer switch, on a smart dimmer switch, and that would be one device connected to six dumb bulbs that will, uh, raise and lower the light. Well, then how do you get to color temperature? How do you adjust the color temperature for night? You may want to use a warmer light, and for day, use a little bit of a cooler light. And so that's the one thing that my complaint about some smart home owners or YouTube producers was the telling me that I need to put a lot of things on smart switches. And I did not want to do that. I wanted each bowl to be individual. Mark, oh, lightning. Okay, that's one of my automations. So we got a storm coming. Let me. I have I believe it's called Blizzard or something. I have an automation that detects lightning about 50 miles out. And when you hear that, but there is no indications of storms happening, but it could be that the storm is nearby. So let me check this out real quick. All these, I just want to check the weather. Now I am recording the camera and I'm using PowerPoint to record the screen. So, oh, yeah, there's a storm right nearby. It's a little storm, but it's a storm nonetheless. But it's probably just going to pass us up. All right, well, that's cool. The lightning thing worked. This is actually my first time hearing that automation work because I set that up about a week ago and we haven't had any lightning storms. So that's cool. It works. Thank you. Back to this. So eventually I had to get rid. I had to think about a different system. A few months ago, um, early March, and it's now May 29th. Early March, I spoke to my wife and said, listen, I need to do something about this smart home. It is not responsive. It is acting up. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. And I need to get this fixed. And so I said, well, this is what I need. I need a computer and a mini PC that's able to control the home. So I eventually got B-Link. And I did some research and saw that B-Link was a really good computer. It comes with this one particular one. It came with 16 gigabyte RAM, which is overkill for Home Assistant, and also a 500 gigabyte SSD card or SSD hard drive. Overkill for Home Assistant. And I wanted the overkills because when the processor does increase and it reaches its maximum, speed, you want you want to allow that bridge, that little bit of leeway so that it can get through those calculations quicker and versus a CPU that's lower, that's not as good, and it has to crunch to every number one at a time until it can get through everything and then come back down again. So Home Assistant does not use a lot of CPU. It doesn't use a lot of CPU, but you will notice that in a lot of instances, and let me see if I can pull that up. It does spike a little bit. Oh no, actually that wasn't a spike. uh, okay, and there's a lot of leeway up here. It actually goes a little bit above here, and I think it's like 3.5. So just keep this in mind. It gives it a little bit more headroom, like the headroom that I have on my head here. Let me tilt that down a little bit. So I needed to upgrade. So here are the things that I really wish I knew in the beginning. One, I wish I knew about Zigbee a little bit more. Um, like the Sylvania bulbs are router bulbs. Router bulbs are capable of being a mesh network for your Zigbee networking system. And so Zigbee mesh is capable of offering that awesome network. Unlike end devices like Wi-Fi devices are end devices, and the singlet bulbs are end devices. It's not. So when you have a large home, and our home is not that large, it's not that big, but imagine a larger home. You're going to want to make sure that every single device that plugs into a wall socket that's getting constant power is connected or has a mesh network built into it. Of course, all your end devices that are battery powered, like this Aquara Cube and like the motion sensor that's you can't see right here. Um, and I also have a temperature monitoring right there. You Those are not router devices. They are end devices. And so what happens is with this bulb, for instance, is that when it talks to the main coordinator. Now imagine that this is the coordinator, but I'm using Home Assistant right now. It talks to here. But then if there's a bulb out here, it will also talk to this other bulb as well. So let's just think about these as being singlet router bulbs. So this bulb gets communicated to from the coordinator, the Zigbee hub, and it talks to this as well. So if this is further away and this is not able to talk to your singlet or Zigbee device, it's going to talk to this instead. Now, the more of these you have, if it's like this, the more of those you have, the slower your network's going to be on devices that are further away. So you are going to notice that 1 or 2 seconds because imagine that it has to communicate from here to here about, let's say, about 100 feet. And then this is 100 feet further down the road, and it has to communicate to this. And then it has to send back data saying, yes, I'm alive, I'm here, I'm responding, this is my brightness, this is my color, I'm going to send you my state, and then this has to send that back over to here. Now, another thing I noticed about Zigbee is that Zigbee is not very quick. It's very slow. So if you're trying to turn on a lot of different things on at one time, then that's not going to work. I'll give you an example of what I tried to do. In my one of my automations, I have a script that is supposed to, like when the alarm is triggered, it will blink all the lights inside and outside the house. A bright red, off, bright white, off, bright red, off, and then bright white again, and it rotates about 40 times. What ended up happening was that it couldn't do it any lower than 600 milliseconds. So my lights would go like this: on, off. But it didn't do that exactly because it has to communicate to every single bulb independently. It was more like on, off, 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 and this was still turning on, and then those will eventually turn off, and then on. So it created a very hysterical type of event. And then I thought, why not? It was cool. Really, when you walk in, it's just a bunch of lights flashing white, red, and off, and it makes it kind of a chaotic environment. Imagine a person coming into my home, and they're like, "Oh, whoa, what's this?" They're not going to realize what's happening. So okay, it worked out great, but I was originally looking for red off, white off, red off, and I want to be faster, you know, red, white, red, white, red, white. But it didn't. It couldn't keep up. Eventually, I got a lot of errors saying that Zigbee wasn't able to um, stay in contact. So what I ended up doing was lowering the amount of bulbs that did that. So I couldn't have every light bulb to do that. I had to decrease the amount of light bulbs that did do that. And so I created scenes, and I can show you some of the scenes here where, and I created scenes like, oh, that's a lightning alerts. Okay, guard. Oh, here we go. I'm not going to click on these because when you click on them, it actually shows you what it looks like, and that's going to turn off my lights. But it literally, I had to take away a few bulbs and do it that way. So it kind of disappointing. It didn't do exactly what I wanted, but it did create a very chaotic experience. And I can imagine that somebody coming into this home, they're going to see that. They could either ignore it, basically, or they will get freaked out and run away. And that's what I hope to happen. Um, Also, Alexa, with these notifications, will with these notifications will don't okay, I'm just noticing something. I was showing you the wrong one. Oh, here we go. This is the one. And so um you can see I had, some scenes pop up, and then it does a reset after running it through 25 times. Um and I had to delay by 1 second. So 1 second is more like, and that's about 1 second, give or take a few milliseconds. So yeah, I was slightly disappointed, but at least I'm able to get all the Alexas to say alarm triggered, and also it gives us notifications, and also tells us with text to speech that this does it as well. So in all, really and truly, I just want to say that this took a lot of doing, learning what scenes do, learning what automations do, learning that using a third party database server is the best idea, especially when you have a lot of animations. You don't want to rely on the internal database. Node-RED is something that I've seen on the internet. At this time, I have not really gotten into Node-RED, but at some point I do. I definitely want to jump in here one day and just start playing with it. I think it's for what I can see on the internet is great. Learned about external backup. So I use OneDrive, and every time I make a change in Home Assistant, I come back here and I click on Trigger Backup. But it is supposed to back up automatically once a day. But a lot of times I'm thinking I want to make sure that it gets backed up every time I make a change, especially when I make a major change. So I'll come back here, I'll click on Trigger Backup, and it basically records everything, all these folders here. and saves it, and then it uploads it to OneDrive. And my OneDrive account, as you can tell, let me go to my OneDrive here. All right, so in my OneDrive apps, this is where all of my OneDrive backups are. So if I sort by date, this is the last one I did at 4:41 this morning, and it backed up everything as a tar file. And so if something goes wrong with my installation, I'll be able to restore it. I haven't done that yet, so I'm not sure how that works, but eventually, I might have to do it, and I'll have to go through the Home Assistant tutorials to learn. And so I think that's good. Also, I learned a lot about dashboards, which is good. I love this dash. I love this light control here because you can control the white color temperature, and you can also control the color, which I think is fabulous, all in one slider. So that is a plus in my book. All right, and so and of course, you got your main card here. What I did was I walked around the house, took pictures, and I included in my card. And of course, I had to put my wife and I right there too. So and started using like third party. I got this graphic from a website, and then I tried to pattern this off of this, and I did medium, high, stuff like that. And I got this animated app from the National Weather Service. It's just a animated GIF file. You refresh it, and it gives you new information. Oh, there we go. This is my first time seeing the lightning instance. So you can see how it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, but it's not going to hit us according to the Weather Channel. Open view is, if you want to make sure it's safe to go outside in the sun. I think that's a good thing to look at. Um, and so there are many other features I would like to show here that I did, especially features where Home Assistant is not able to control it, but Alexa is. So I created Alexa routines and gave Home Assistant input Boolean targets or toggles to activate those Alexa routines. And so I think it's not exactly what a lot of Home Assistant enthusiasts will be like, well, you're not working locally and this and that and the other. Well, that's true. There are a lot of things that are still in the cloud. I'm finding out that local to you doesn't work when my internet's out. I still have a few local to you devices. A few left like this computer strip. This is local to you. And I'm finding that it doesn't work when it's offline. So I'm happy to know that there's a switch on the power strip that will allow me to still control my devices, because otherwise I'll be SOL when I need to have something turn on even when my internet's off. I got an outdoor switch, which controls my outdoor lights, and of course I want to talk about this one later. I'm not going to talk about it now because that's a whole different ballgame right there. But I definitely want to talk about that later. And so that's it for that. So I'm going to go ahead and start the recording on that. But hey, this video is going to be very long. This is my first video. I will live and learn. But I just want to do a quick history about how I got into smart homes and how excited I am about it and how it's a wonderful thing to have. It's a great hobby. And I definitely want to talk about the wife factor. She supports me 100%. I'll be honest. She does. When things don't work, of course, she doesn't get. I know a lot of the YouTubers out there, they have like little skits out there where the wife gets pissed off and all that stuff, or the girlfriend with the Paul Hilbert. Well, she's a wife now, but but it's cool. It's cute. It's funny. And who knows what goes on behind closed doors. I'm sure that they support their husbands in this crazy, mad world of smart homes. Because like anybody say, If you want the lights on, get off your lazy ass and flip on the damn switch. Really? All right. Um, my first video. Like, subscribe, comment below. Tell me what you think. If you want to give me some pointers, please do. I know the ahs and you knows I'm working on, and of course, as things progresses and this channel continues, I'm going to start upgrading all the different techniques that I use to record this. All right, peace out. See you later.